unapologetic, unadulterated, and uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the super fortress of intelligent black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio. I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And we're glad to have you all with us here tonight. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. 646-787-1933 is your access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. And that's a damn shame. By the way, I just thought I'd throw that out there. That is a damn shame. Tonight on the line, I've got with me Brittany. I'm not going to pretend about her last name. Is that Issy? What is that?
Oh, it's Issei.
Okay, Issei. Isse. And I'm very glad you agreed to join us here tonight. I've actually wanted to speak with you here for a little while. I don't ask people to be on my broadcast. I don't, as you all know. I don't do that. But in your case, I did. Even though most people don't know you, I did ask you to be on, and there was a reason for that. The reason for that is because you relayed a story to me on one of my Facebook posts once. And I wanted you, if you could, to just relay that story to everybody else here tonight, because that it really encapsulated a lot. It really encapsulated the issue. It really, really did. You were talking about how you have a group on Facebook, and you had made people an offer for advertising. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you told us on my group page?
Oh, of course. Well, first of all, I just want to say it's an honor to be on the show, Jason, that you asked me. I really appreciate it. And Black first, of course. So I believe about 3-4 months ago, I started a Facebook group pertaining to cooking geared towards Black women. I don't really want to say the name on the air, but so I've gotten quite a large following in a short amount of time. So I figured, and I actually got this idea off of one of your shows, and I can't recall which one it was, but how Black people, they always want attention and they never think to actually monetize a following. So I figured, the easiest way for me to do that would be to sell a pinned post within the group. I was charging $35 for 7 days. And it went well. For a few weeks, people were purchasing it, making sales, wanting to do business with me. And, excuse me, I'm a little nervous. But, after about the 4th or 5th week I had this going, I started getting emails and posts within the group where women, specifically Black women, were in there, just voicing their distrust, felt that I was scamming them, felt that I was trying to come up off the Black community, and honestly, it was only for $35, which I felt was a steal because it took a lot of my time and effort to get the group actually going. So I've just been basically dealing with this handful of women trying to report me to Facebook, trying to make another Facebook, slandering me, slandering my group. And it's just really disheartening, because we're supposed to be focusing on lifting each other up, not tearing each other down.
Now, you say that about we're supposed to be lifting each other up, not tearing each other down. And that is precisely the problem, though, Brittany, because there is a whole segment, a whole half of Black society that they're not not interested in building anything. They get up in the morning, 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 they get up in And they're not even really operating on a human level if you think about it. They are not trying to build anything. The whole of their
Definitely.
day is just focused. They're not living, they're just existing. And that is what the
Mhm.
focus of their life is just milling from one event, one location to another. They're not actually going anywhere. So when you say we're supposed to be focused on building, not tearing each other down, the problem is we do have a segment of black society that is what they're focused on. Their entire focus is just keeping themselves entertained like a child with a Tonka toy. That's all they're doing. They're not building anything. They're not fixing anything. They're not moving anything. They're not constructing anything. That is all they're doing. Now, for somebody like you, if
Definitely.
they didn't like what was going on in your group, there are literally thousands of groups on Facebook. They easily could have gone somewhere else. And instead, we're not going to do that. We're going to see if we can stay and mess with Brittany. For what reason? Now, they're not doing that to Daniel Pantaleo. They're not making pages about him. They're not doing that to Darren Wilson. They're not making pages about him. They're not doing that about Bob McCullough or Dan Donovan. They're not doing that about them. They're not messing with Steve Scalise, but they are messing with you. And the problem that we have in black society that goes back to that is that black people do not see a world beyond themselves. That the whole world of black people is so myopic that it's completely confined to other black people. There is no larger world. So when we talk about power, black people as a group do not focus on power outside of black people. Our definition of power is relative only, and not even to all black people. It is relative only to the black people that we come into regular contact with. It's not even relegated to all black people. It's just we have a very myopic view of the world, of life, of people. Everything is just so tightly confined. So in their minds, if they can do something to Brittany, then they validated their existence. Meanwhile, white supremacy is running wild, uninterrupted. And these folks are not trying to throw a single stumbling block in their way. The first question that comes to any sensible person's mind is, first of all, why would anyone see what you are asking for to be unreasonable? That's the first thing. Why would anybody have a problem with that? So I want to ask you, as a black female, and these were pretty much, I think you said these are all black females that you were referring to.
Yes, the group specifically for black women. I know there has been a few Caucasian and a few Asians that are in the group, but the majority is black women.
Okay, well, there goes your black unity. There goes your black female unity. I guess you need some feminists in the group so they can try to enforce that black female unity that they're always yelling about. I wonder if any feminists came to your rescue, by the way. Where's Feminista Jones and some of the rest of them to come to your rescue when you need it, to remind the rest of the females that they're off code and everything? I just a
Yeah,
thought.
of course not.
Yeah, now if you had said something about abortion, well, that would be different. But in any case, what do you think was the problem that they had with what you were trying to do?
Uh, well, from what I, interpreted through the emails that they had inboxed me on Facebook concerning my pinned post, that they felt in their mind that it was illegal for me to have paid advertising on a free Facebook group. But honestly, by that logic, them wanting to post their free ads in my group, they'd be making money, so wouldn't that essentially be illegal as well? Like, that seems like what their logic was. And I just can't wrap my head around it, honestly.
Is that the real problem that they had, Brittany? Or was it something else?
Uh, yeah, definitely crabs in a barrel mentality. I feel like because they, in their mind, they can touch me, like they can't bring down Darren Wilson, but they can bring down little Brittany Issa, who has a, small Facebook following, you know, I don't know. I honestly, I don't understand it. Maybe because they can't do that, or they feel like they don't know how to do that. They're not doing it for themselves. That no one should be doing it. No one should be doing something as, a black woman shouldn't be doing something more or bigger than what they're doing.
And that's a shame, especially among the women who are lowest on the totem pole in the world. You would think that the people at the bottom would be able to stick together more than anybody, because it's not like you have anybody you can look down at. You would figure that once you're at the bottom, it would be very clear to you and undeniable what your position is. And that all your energies would be geared towards that. That's why revolutions start. Revolutions start because the people at the bottom realize, hey, we're at the damn bottom. But that's not what occurred in your case. And it's not uncommon. I've seen it. People have done it with me. Other people who've been trying to build something, they've done it with us. It's especially acute among black women, but it's not confined to black women. It's especially severe among black women, but it's not confined to them alone. And that's a shame if we're going to talk about, a society where almost 8 out of 10 children are raised by single mothers. You would think that they would be the ones with their act together the most, and that's not what's occurring. Instead, they're out there with the knives out for each other worse than anything. So we're not going after, Paula Deen. We're going to go after Brittany instead, who's done nothing to you. And the reason for that, Brittany, I think that the reason for that is they took a look at you, somebody who was just like them at a basic social level. You're just like them. You don't have any advantages. You don't come from a celebrity family. You don't come from a bunch of money. You didn't know a bunch of people. This is just something that you built up on your own, just simply through your own efforts and your own heart and your own passion. You built up just a little thing. It's not even big, by the way. This is the problem with Negroes. We don't fight over big stuff. We fight over crumbs. As Aaron Neville said that her father, as Aaron Neville told Arthel Neville, she relayed the story after Hurricane Katrina. For those of you who were not here in Louisiana, Aaron Neville's house got broken into during Hurricane Katrina. While they were evacuated, his house got broken into by the Niglets. And Arthel Neville was on TV and she said, my dad told me that we fight over crumbs. And that's what black society has been reduced to. That we've become a people we're fighting over crumbs. We're not even fighting over a whole piece of bread. We're not fighting over a whole drumstick. We're just fighting over crumbs. We're not even thinking to join together and say, hey, who the hell's got that damn turkey? Let's all gang up and take it from him. We're looking at Brittany and saying, hey, Brittany's got 4 crumbs. I've only got 1. Let me take one of Brittany's crumbs. Because it's not like you had something huge here. I mean, $35, my God. That's not like you had something major, but that was more than them, and that was enough that in their myopic little worlds, $35 is money. And if you want to know why we have more bastard baby makers out here pregnant by dudes simply because he could dance or he had a nice hairstyle, take a look at how gaga they go over $35. Which is nothing, by the way. It's nothing. You pay more than that for your internet connection that connects you to Facebook. $35. But they took a look at you, Brittany, and they saw that your pile of crumbs was bigger than theirs. And their first reaction was not, how can we work together? Their first reaction was, hey, why she got such a big pile? I come online. I post up. It's not fair. It's not right that her pile of crumbs is so big and mine is so small. That's not fair. That's not right that she's got more than me. She should be like me because my life sucks. So I need to let her see what it's like. She thinks she's all pretty and cute and got people liking her and paying her. Nobody thinks I'm pretty, cute. Nobody's paying me. Nobody wants to hear my ideas. Nobody's knocking themselves over. So she should be like me. She should get to suffer. She should get her feet kicked out from under her because people are always kicking my feet out from under me. Or at least that's what they tell themselves. Is really they're not doing anything, but they tell themselves people are sabotaging them. Fine, even if that were the truth, in their minds they're saying, well, people are always sabotaging me. Why shouldn't we sabotage Brittany? That's what I think it is. I think it is that these people are doing badly. So many of our people are doing badly that when they look at somebody black who's not doing badly, their first idea is not how can we join forces so all of us can have more. Their first idea is no, we should all be poor together. You see, I was okay with you when you were broke. I was okay with you when you had nothing. But you look like you're going to leave me behind, and I am so shameless that I have no problem being an agent of white supremacy in broad open daylight. That was what I took from your story as you related, Brittany. That was what I took from it. And you would think as black females, as black people, not just black females, but as black people, you would think that it would be fundamental that the first part of the code of conduct would be not to do that. Let me find out here, did this hurt your efforts in any way?
Oh, definitely not. I did take down essentially my advertisement of advertising. I threw up the 7 a.m., as a pinned post just until everything, fizzles out and whatnot. But, I made a good amount of money, and I actually upped the price of the per week. And I have about 10, 12 weeks ahead that have already been paid for. So they haven't been able to hurt me. I just blocked them off of Facebook.
Well, that's good, and that won't prevent them from trolling because that's what so many of our people have been reduced to. Their lives are nothing more than a Facebook post, so somebody they don't know from anywhere, a perfect stranger, this is what our energies go toward. Black empowerment? No way. Black empowerment is just off the table. There's no concept of it. If you're not doing bad, they don't. This is why I said years ago that Bushika and the slave master are one and the same. Because that's the agents inside black society. And we've got so many of them now at this point. We've got so many of them at this point. And for somebody like you who put together something so basic, I get messages from people all the time asking me how I've done this or how I've done that. They want to know about getting their car dealer's license. I get people who ask about that all the time. All the time. And they come on my broadcast and I tell them. That was one of the reasons why the fraud was never able to get farther than he did, because, the fraud was always trying to hold other people back and, I want to be the only one who gets seen because he figured that, he would make his pile of crumbs bigger than everybody else's if he could just somehow derail them. And in the end, they just kind of self-destructed. But I've never been a person who operated that way. When I have knowledge and information, I say, hey, I'll give that out. I'll dispense that. That's why my broadcast goes on as long as it does. It gives me a long form format where I can go into detail with these things. And you would think that if somebody doesn't have something, that their first thought would be, hey, let me knock this dust off of me. I'm looking really dusty and really bummy. And maybe I need to be down with Brittany so we can find out how we do this kind of thing. Because she's got it like that. Why don't I talk to her and see what I got to do so I got it like that? You would think that that would be the reflexive response, but that's not what happened. And I don't want to make it sound like it was everybody there, because of course it was not everybody there, but it was enough that it was causing you problems for that. And that's something for the people at the bottom that should simply never happen. That kind of thing right there should say, you could never have a bunch of Asians together and something like that occur. You can never have a bunch of Jews, a bunch of Arabs, a bunch of Latinos together and something like that happen. That would never have happened. There is a wide swath of black society that wants to self-destruct. And all they're here to do is raise as much hell as they can before Darren Wilson shows up and puts a gun to their heads. But they're not trying to build anything, Brittany. They're not trying to build anything.
Definitely. And you, pardon me, sorry, Jason.
Go ahead, Brittany.
Oh, I just want to say, like, one thing that, you know, had me floored once I got these inboxes from these women is, you know, the group, it's a cooking group, but I've posted, you know, I've done a post, like I did a post after New Year's saying that, you know, your New Year's resolution, you know, think of getting into silver, like buy one silver coin a month in 2015. I got maybe one like on that. And, like I've been, you know, open and with the women in the group about, hey, I do e-commerce. I know how to, you know, import from China, sell in Amazon fulfillment centers, just like inbox me. No one inboxes me about that. But I get my inbox is full for this $35 pin post. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, you found a niche market, you know. That's one of the frustrations that I have, is that we're not a big picture thinking people. We're really not. And when you start talking about big picture thinking, you know, that's where the rubber meets the road. And unfortunately, once the rubber meets the road, most people go swerving right off of it, trying to get people to think on a bigger level. So that's what I was saying before. Small things we can wrap our heads around. We can wrap our heads around menial stuff. We can wrap our heads around minute things. Large things, we just tilt. If you know the old video game adage, I mean, it's just total default at that point. Big thinking is something that is just so horribly challenged in black society. And I've done everything that I can up to this point, and you're trying to do your thing, but it's an uphill fight because we've got a segment of the population in black society that is against black society. This is like a football team where you get on the line of scrimmage, you're the quarterback on the line of scrimmage, and then you say, hut, and your offensive linemen turn around and start trying to tackle you along with the defense. So it's like the Patriots, you know, the Colts playing the Saints, and instead of the offensive lineman blocking the Saints defense, the Saints defense runs at the quarterback and the Colts offense runs at the quarterback. So Andrew Luck is just running. And that's what we tend to end up with there, and that is shameful. But you know what? I want to do something for that. What is the name of your group, Brittany?
The name of my group is Sistas in the Kitchen, SISTAZ.
So they got mad at a group that's about cooking.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. They got upset with you for wanting to give out cooking tips. Is that about right?
Yeah, that sums it up.
I don't know how old you are, Brittany, but Marvin Gaye had a song called Inner City Blues. And the chorus of the song was "Makes Me Wanna Holler." throw up both my hands. I mean, seriously, we have a group of black women anywhere in a, that should be something like Bigfoot. You shouldn't have to travel far and wide to find something like that. That should not be something that you're just able to make happen on demand. That is ridiculous. Brittany is able to make $35. They should have been taking a look at what you did as a business model and said, how can I replicate that? Because I guarantee you, if they put up a Facebook page and people were offering to pay them, they would be perfectly fine with it. And if somebody did that to them, they'd be sitting there saying, oh, see, we can't stick together on nothing. You always got haters. And as far as cooking is concerned, 80% of black women are overweight. You think they would be perfectly fine with learning how to do something in the kitchen as opposed, I guess they figure we got a drive-through window. We don't need to learn how to be in the kitchen. I can make a mess over here about her group about the kitchen because as long as KFC and Taco Bell and Chipotle are open, then that's all I have to worry about. Maybe some of them will get smart, Brittany, and actually ask you. I don't know. Well, the ones you haven't blocked, I mean. But this is the kind of example of the kind of thing that distresses me. That even at a grassroots level, I mean, even at a basic level, what's the point? And understand something, it's not about Facebook either, Brittany. It's not about Facebook. It's not about you wanting to do that on Facebook. If you had up just a regular website anywhere, you would still have people sitting up. That same group of dirty broads would still be messing with you about the same thing. Now, they wouldn't have a Facebook administrator to go to, so you probably wouldn't even know about most of them. But they'd be online somewhere running you down, talking about don't join this website, don't go to this group because they don't do anything good. They're bad. She's charging people for recipes. Now, I'm not going to mess with Paula Deen because Paula Deen is a racist and Paula Deen talks about the kitchen, but I'm not going to mess with her. I'm going to mess with you. If people want to know why I speak in such black and white terms, why everything for me is just yes or no, that's why, Brittany. Things like what happened to you, that's why. Because with those types of Negroes, we don't have a future. If we let them keep steering the society, we don't have another century to go. We don't. We just don't. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight and just letting everybody know about your experience. And also for all the ladies in the group and whatnot, you can definitely go by her group and join up with that there. They do some nice things. And of course they got 7 a.m. posted up there, so I have to endorse that. I'll let you have the last word, Brittany.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jason. It was a pleasure being on your show. Yeah, definitely go check out the group. It's a wonderful group. Most of the women in there, the majority are, a pleasure to, converse with, switch up recipes. It's fun. And thank you so much, Jason. I can't wait for your documentary to come out. And Black First, brother.
Black First, sister, thank you very much for joining us. We're glad to have you. Well, that was the view from the kitchen. At the basic grassroots level, this is what's going on out there. At a basic grassroots level, this is what you have happening. Now, if you think that we have a chance of survival, if you think that we're going to be able to survive something like that, you are out of your damn mind. There is no way in the world that as a group we're going to be able to survive that type of internal cancer. eating away at you. So it really is black and white. The difference really is that stark. That even at a basic, you're making $35 that another person is ready to sit up here and slit your throat for $35. You all thought you only had that trouble out of dope fiends. And here you've got grown men and grown women walking around with a dope fiend mentality. They got $30. I'll bust your head open. And if you don't think that's a problem, you haven't been paying attention. Let's open up the phone lines here. I want to see if we can take caller from 313. You're on live with the Black Channel. Really? You're not? Keep that in mind. Caller from 262. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hey, hello, Jason. This is Brian from Milwaukee. I was actually just in queue listening, and it said press 1 to listen, to let the host know you're in queue. So I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah, if you press 1, you'll be talking to me.
I didn't press 1, though. That's what I'm saying.
That's strange. People have been saying that's been happening. But Blog Talk's technical support is off until, I guess, I don't know, next week or just terminally out to lunch. But, did you have something to say?
Black first, brother. I was just listening.
Okay. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Like I say, they've been messing up for a while on that, so whatever. Let's take the next person who's not meaning to talk to us. Caller from 219. You're on live with the Black Channel.
I'm just listening. I didn't press any button.
I guess that's kind of amazing because, like, Mona did it, but I guess she's just got the magic touch, or she's just called in enough times it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess I'll be in touch with him about that. Either that or we'll do something different. Caller from 406. You're on live with the Black Channel. It is becoming a comedy skit now. One of the questions that I was opining tonight, look it up. One of the questions that I was debating with myself earlier is, are black people ready for capitalism? I say capitalism, but that's not really what I mean. What I really mean is, are black people ready for prosperity? If you needed to sell prosperity to black people, would they be open to that? Are black people as a group really interested in prosperity? Not just capitalism, not just money. Are black people ready for prosperity? And by that, I don't just mean emotionally. What I mean is, are they prepared for that? Are they actually prepared for prosperity? Are they truly interested in it? Are they willing to adopt the nuts and the bolts necessary to have it? You see, everybody is happy to get something for nothing. Okay, but I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about, are we as a people willing to accept and gain the fundamental skill set necessary to have prosperity? Or are we so accustomed to a hand-to-mouth existence that that prosperity is just a foreign concept to us now? And not just foreign, we simply have no interest in having it. because our conversations very rarely go there. Our motivations very rarely go there. Whatever we do very rarely goes there. So is it just lost on us now? Are we just not ready for prosperity? When I decided to do 7 a.m., I had a lot of options. I could have done a lot of things. I could have gone off and done something that I figured would have appealed to a lot of people. And that's usually what you do when you get a bunch of money to make a movie. You try to figure out what is it that will get the most eyeballs, and then you go make that, and that's going to be the movie. We're going to go make a movie. It's going to be a lot of people to show up, and I'm going to go appeal to what's for the masses. But I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I decided to go in a direction that most people shy away from. I decided to go in a direction of something that black people actually need. You see, we become a people who are intellectually helpless, that we don't even want our thoughts to gravitate towards something that requires work or effort because we've just accepted that we can't do it. So when the conversation turns to empowerment, most of our people get up and start sprinting. Because we're uninterested. We've accepted that helpless mindset, that helpless position. So we don't need money. I've made a comfortable place for myself being broke. So you see, I don't need money. Money isn't necessary unless you are unhappy. You don't need money when you've got, quote, happiness. You don't need money when you have fooled yourself into believing that you're happier without it. And by and large, black people as a group, we have talked ourselves, we fooled ourselves into believing that we are actually happier being broke. We're actually happier being poor. We're actually happier like that. So we don't mind being homeless. Hell, we're expecting it's going to happen at any time. I've got something more important than a home. And the truth is, you don't really think it's more important. It's just that you've given up on the idea that prosperity is your right. I could have made a film about the gender wars. I could have done that. I could have made a movie that was droning on about the same crap that Maury Povich and Steve Wilco, whatever the hell his name is, and Jerry Springer and the rest of them. I could have made a whole movie that did nothing but talk about that garbage for over 2 hours. I could have done that. I could have made a film fixating on our time as the pharaohs. And we can talk about the last 100,000 years of history. I could have made a movie that did that instead. I could have. I could have made a movie that allowed us to historically masturbate. Allow us to engage in that historic masturbation. Because black people love talking about ancient history because we think that that absolves us from our responsibility of what we're supposed to be doing today. But that's not the whole issue. The major reason why black people like talking about history so much is because you can't do anything about it. You can have a thought, you can have an opinion, but you can't change it. So you see, nobody is invalidated when you discuss history. Nobody. You can have an opinion, you can have a viewpoint, but that's all you can have. You can't have any effect on it. And if that sounds like religion, congratulations, you get the Cupid doll. Because you see, that's how that works too. We can sit and we can talk about religion and we can pontificate about it and we can fantasize about it. The only thing we can't do is prove it or change it. Now that you can't do. And we're perfectly fine with circumstances that we cannot alter or change. We're fine with that. That's okay by us. Because you see, we found something more important than life. Our own little pathetic corner of the world where we are in dire poverty. So we will grab the pair of tennis shoes that we have and we will fantasize that possession of those shoes validates us, thus the shoes are more important than life. Yeah, I mean, I could have done something that was very palatable to the masses, that attracted this large gathering of people. I could have done that. I could have done that. I could have gone out of my way, and all those people who were running Britney down, I could have put together something they would have liked. They would love to see us sitting around slinging feces at each other and talking about dysfunction because you see, these people they are no longer able to function in a non-chaotic environment. They get up every day like gladiators. The only thing on their little feeble minds is to fight. That's all they are reduced to doing now is sex and violence. They've been reduced to this animalistic bestial stage. So what I do and what I talk about and what I'm saying is so far above them, so far over their heads, so far beyond them. That it beggars the question tonight, are black people ready for prosperity? Are we actually ready for it, or is prosperity a lost cause for black people? Is prosperity just lost on us? Have we been slaves for so long that we can no longer see the world outside of our bondage? That we're just not concerned any longer? Is that where we're at? Let me grab another phone call here, hopefully. Caller from 786. You're on live with the Black Channel. Did you want to speak?
Yes, I did. Black first.
What's your name? Where you calling from?
Lonnie from Miami.
Brother Lonnie from Miami. Long time. Glad to hear from you, brother. What's on your mind?
That first call that I listened to, Brittany, that's saddening. But it's a state that we're all in. It's just sad that it's still that big and that dangerous, and people don't know how dangerous that mentality is to the builders of the new black society that everybody's striving for. That's how white supremacy just takes black people away from other black people because of that same mentality. That I hate you for trying to be better than what we are right now. Jay's wrong. Jay's hating her because she wants to do something with her life and she wants to grow something on her own and not congratulating. They're the only people to do that across this country. We're the only people to do that. Really, we're the only people to do that in this world. But it's just saddening, and that's why black people go and turn, and you see them on VH1 and ABC doing TV shows that are negative on black society, because some of those people they just went away from black people because everything was, I'm going to tear you down if you stay around me. That we're so poor and so used to it and so accustomed and comfortable with it that we'll rather eat our own than to grow anything. And the littlest bit that somebody else can get ahead of us is dangerous to everything. That mentality to be more intelligent, to be more wealthy, is dangerous to black society. And we need to cast that off. But how? I mean, the only way that we've done it for the last 50 years is to get away from everybody else. But the only place to get away from is white supremacy.
Is prosperity wasted on us?
I think it's wasted on a majority of us. I think the thought of being prosperous is not what we're used to. It's not what we want. We just want to be entertained. We want fun, and we want to relax, and that's it. So it's wasted on the majority of us. It's just that we're spread out so much. 3,000 by 3,500 square miles of a country, and we're spread it out so much that it's one prosperous thinking person amongst hundreds and thousands of people who don't care, who would rather bury that one person opposed to being prosperous themselves. That light of prosperity and growing something on one person will shine a light on everybody on, hey, why don't you jump up and do something? That we'll rather dim one person's light and then feel good about it. Like if they made her not want to do anything else ever again, they would be happy with it. But then they'll go out and they'll spend over $200 on shoes, a purse, a vacation. But you won't spend $35 with your own people. It got to be a scam. That's the first thing that they pointed. It's a scam. She shouldn't be doing this. This is illegal. It's wrong. It's against the rules. We don't like prosperity because it brings responsibility and accountability. And that's the one thing that black society constantly runs away from is accountability and then responsibility. You throw it at them and they'll run away from it because they don't want it. They have no need for it. They know that once they have responsibility, they have to do something. Be held accountable is a fear because their entire lives are not being held accountable. The welfare mothers are not held accountable. They're on Section 8 and welfare. Nobody's holding them accountable. That's why you find a 35-year-old woman on getting her benefits that's not accountable because, and she's still acting like an 18-year-old because white supremacy has said you can remain 18 for as long as you want to. And how are we going to be prosperous? Unless we grow small communities and neighborhoods where we want to be and see each other be prosperous, you're not going to really see that effort. You're going to have to take that the majority of black people that you run into as you're trying to grow something are going to want to tear you down in a way. That you have to take that hit and keep on going. Now, how do we do it as an entire people with 45 million people? I have absolutely no idea how we do that. 20% of the people, we can do that. It has to be a small number where we say no more, but the rest of everybody, we're not going to be able to get them to be prosperous. They don't want it. It comes too much accountability, too much responsibility.
I wonder if the number is as high as 20%. I feel like the number may be even much lower than 20.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
that would
lower
be a
than
deadly
20. I
thing.
mean, I would want it to be 20, but it's definitely it's more probably maybe 5, maybe to 10% somewhere in there. It's just sad when you see it that it's so few people that actually want it. I mean, I've lost friends that I've known for years because I went from being vocal to being more vocal to being consistently vocal, and over the years I've just lost one friend. 10 years, there's a friend. There's another friend that they don't want it. And the thing that you have to look at is they don't want it, so keep on going. You keep on going individually and meeting people who want prosperity, who want wealth, who want power, who want influence, because the rest of everybody else is just going to keep sinking you. You already know you're coming up against white supremacy, you're coming up against other races, and you got your own race at your back about to stab you with a knife. So you know that, but as long as you know it and you keep your focus, you can keep on going. But you're not going to get many people who just want to see your prosperity until you're already there. Until you're making money, then they're going to have no point but to acknowledge that you're somewhere and you're somebody. Money changes how people listen to you. You can have the best ideas, you could come up with the best slogans, you could have the best speech. When you change your money, people start listening to you. They have to listen to you. They recognize that. They're trying to stop her from getting to that point to where everybody has to listen to Britney. And everybody has to not listen to her because she's not making so much money now. So the point is to stop every black person from getting to that hurdle so that we could keep the dysfunction amongst ourselves without anybody listening. So there's no reason for me to not be broke because everybody else around me is broke and nobody else got away from being broke. They don't like the stories of how somebody went from the projects to the mansion. Black people really don't like those stories because then he grew up in these projects. See, they don't like the story and hearing how Jay-Z went from Marcy Projects to now he's Fifth Avenue. They like that. They like to watch him party and everything and try to emulate that, but they don't like the story of it because now all of you people that are still here that were here when he was here and all the people that have come since he's left, you're here, so what are you going to do? So that's why even in our music and our culture and talking, we don't hear about that part of what Jay-Z's done. You hear everything else. You hear him popping bottles. You hear him going to parties. You hear him buying, little small pieces into sports teams. But you never hear how much he was in the projects and now he's not because we don't like that because we think that if we don't get out, then now everybody's looking and saying, well, it must be your fault you didn't get out. People are still going to say that. They just don't want anybody around to say that. And the more you keep people in that hole, then the better. It doesn't matter how deep it gets because they just hate to see somebody else get somewhere else because now what am I going to do? Money changes your friends. All of a sudden you have somebody with money and you're not looking at the ratchet person that you used to hang out with and saying, yeah, I want to go to a nice restaurant with this person. Like, you're going to be all out. I can't go. I need friends who I can go and, build power, wealth, and influence with. I need friends who represent me well. So as long as you don't have to be dropped as a friend because you haven't grown, then you just keep on telling that person you don't need to you don't need to sell anything for $35, Brittany, because you have to just be here with me. Because if you outgrow me, then I haven't grown. And black people don't want to grow because it's so much fun to be a kid. It's like your 20s. Men, mostly, by the time men and women, black men and black men and black women hit 30, we're two different people. We're on two different wavelengths. Society has given black women the ability not to grow up and take on accountability and responsibility, but it has forced black men to get a higher standard of accountability. At 30 years old, I can't go back to prison. I'm going to be in there for the rest of my life. At 30 years old, a black woman can say, I'm going to go out and have another kid because the system's going to take care of it. So she can have the same mentality at 30 that she has at 18. A man at 30 can't have that same mentality. So he has to have a prosperity mentality. So where do you see the prosperity mentality for black women? It's in the youth. It's before they turn 30. Guarantee you, Brittany's 25 or younger, because she doesn't have to have that. She doesn't have to have the accountability hasn't been taken away from her. She's still been able to be held accountable and have responsibility and grow up as a functioning adult, whereas most black women don't. The black women that came against her, guarantee you, they have kids, they're on welfare, they're on Section 8, and they haven't grown up yet.
What I want is for everybody listening right now, whether you're listening live or whether you're listening to this recorded later, everybody right now, I want you to go to your Facebook, go to your Twitter, go to your Instagram, go to your cell phone and text, and I want you to post up the 7 a.m. website. Right now, everybody. Whether you're listening to this live or whether you're listening to this recorded, don't just sit there listening to me. You got a chance to do that. I want you to do it right now. Right this second. That includes you too, Lonnie, by the way. But everybody who's listening right now, everybody in the chat room, because we've got hundreds of people listening right now. We'll have thousands of people listening later. I want you to post up the link to this. And the reason for it is because I'm going to be able to say things in 7 a.m. to an audience in a way I haven't said it before. And this will be your opportunity to actually see it and live in color. And it's very, very important that we have this gathering of people. We need to push this thing as far as we can. We need to get it out there as big as we can. Because this is the first time in history that we've ever talked about fixing what is our fundamental problem. We are the poorest people in the world, and that is what has created every other problem that we have. Because you can be victimized when you're poor. They can practice systemic racism against you when you're poor. They can take your schools, they can take your children, they can take your life when you're poor. And one of the things we've done is we've adopted an impoverished mindset where we just say that, well, we poor. I mean, if you're black, well, that's just po, and we're okay being poor. We've gotten accustomed to everybody else pitying us. We don't want empowerment, we want their pity. And if we act weak enough and docile enough and don't do enough, then, well, they'll look down on us and then they won't mess with us as long as we reaffirm for them that, indeed, we are the po folks. And what I'm saying is that at some place, at some point, they begin voting people off the island. And I'm telling you all right now, they've begun doing that with the stories that I went over just yesterday. From Nicki Minaj refusing to say anything, saying that Kanye West got beat up by white folk for saying what he said about Bush. So that was her reason for not speaking up on black issues. Because if I do, then the white fans and the white press will come out against me. She just outright said, hey, I'm trying to keep these white folk off me. Go read Rolling Stone magazine, everybody. That's what she said in the interview. I'm just trying to keep them off of me. It's not black folk who had a problem with what Kanye West said. So she's letting you know the people who had a problem with Kanye West, and that was mostly white. Now that was pretty much all white, actually. She said those are the people she's worried about, and she needs, if they're not happy with her, then she's like, forget it. It's not worth it. If they're not happy with me, forget it. It's not worth it. I'm rich. I'll just keep doing rapping. If they're going to beat up on me, I'm just going to keep doing rapping. I'm not going to stand for nothing. So she said, hey, I'm checking out this black thing. I'm here to make sure that the whites who pay my bills, I'm making sure that they're okay. Damn, y'all. Even though you're the base of support, by the way. Even though they've already let her know that Iggy Azalea is here to take her place, she is going to hang on to that bed winch roll till the last second. And then you got Congressman Steve Scalise. Blatantly went and spoke to white supremacists. He's your House Majority Whip. Out with Eric Cantor, in with this guy. By the way, I just thought I'd throw that in there, by the way. So we got rid of Eric Cantor, and this is what we replaced him with. Eric Cantor was just a racist. Steve Scalise is an outright white supremacist. In case you can't tell, that is not a step up, people. And John Boehner has said he's not going to try to remove him. He considers the white supremacy thing to be old news. Now David Duke has come out and said that anybody who speaks against Steve Scalise anymore, if they keep doing it, he's going to start listing names of people with white supremacist ties. David Duke said if y'all keep bashing Steve Scalise, if he goes down, everybody goes down. You better stop. Now, why don't you all watch Meet the Press tomorrow and see if they're talking about Steve Scalise or if they're talking about something else. If they're talking about something else on Meet the Press on This Week with George Snuffleupagus, with Face the Nation, if they're talking about something other than Steve Scalise, that means that David Duke has gotten them quieted. He's silenced them. And that should tell you how far this really goes. You would think with all of that going on right now, man, black folks should be on top of it. This should just be it. We shouldn't be discussing anything else. We need to push this with 7 a.m. people because these folk are... You have a white supremacist as your majority whip now with the whole backing of the government. And that's Democrats and Republicans because how many Democrats are involved in this, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. We need to be pushing this harder than anything else. Why? Because we don't have anything else. People, we don't have anything else. This is not optional. This is mandatory. We don't have anything else. In New York, you're in a literal police state. This should be like church at SVA Theater. It should be like church there. Man, we ought to have people lined up outside the door down the block. They'll be listening on loudspeakers outside of the place. This isn't a event, it's the event. And after what's happened in the last 2 years, you would think everybody sees that by now. But they grow tired of this. They grow weary of what we do here. Because what we do here is not very entertaining. And the honest truth is that for many black folk, they are getting up every day and they've already just resigned themselves to their fate. They're just hoping that today won't be their day. As long as it's kind of like, it's like that movie Schindler's List. And you had that psychotic sitting up there in the window with his sniper rifle. And just every morning he'd get up and start shooting at random Jews down in the yard. Just start shooting at them. Just sniping them off. Now they're supposed to be down there working, and he just gets up and just pow, pow, just picks off a few of them because he can. Because he can. And all the others milling around down there in the yard, they're just hoping that today is not their day, that they're going to get up and he's going to decide to aim his gun at them. You can't run, you can't hide. You have to keep working. They're just hoping that today is not their day. And the truth is that most of black society, they saw Darren Wilson, they saw George Zimmerman, they saw Johannes Meserly, they saw Daniel Pantaleo, they saw Dan Donovan, they saw Bob McCullough. They've seen Tim Lohman. They're killing your 12-year-olds now. The majority of black folk today are just hoping that the gun's not pointed at them today. I'm one of those crazy people who's saying that we need to disarm the gunman. But the majority of black folk are just hoping that today is not their day. There shouldn't be a black person in America watching the NFL. There shouldn't be a black person in America doing anything except this. Day and night is what we should be focused on. You would never know that black people are in the midst of a second Holocaust. You would never know that by looking at the way we're behaving. You'd never know that was what was going on. You'd never know. And that's why I asked the question, is prosperity lost on black people today? Is it just lost on us? Because if prosperity is lost on you, then guess what? Next up is life is just lost on you. Life is just a lost concept. I'll let you have the last word, Lonnie.
It's definitely lost on the vast majority of black people, but to those people that it's not lost on, they're just going to have to group together, because the ones who it is lost on, they're just hoping that they get enough people around them that the sniper will hit them and miss themselves. But it's just lost. So many black people are just lost to what's going on and stepping up. They haven't been able to see anything better, and they really don't desire anything better. That's just what we have to look at them and say, that most black people don't even desire a better road and a better life than what they have. They just found that's just what they want. Today, this is the first weekend of the new year, and they're ready to go out and turn up. And you talking about black empowerment, you talking about money, you talking about being aware of the dangerous world that black people are living in, and they have no need for it. They don't have a need for black empowerment. And you need as in care, and that's it. Black first.
Black first, brother. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. That's Brother Lonnie checking in from Florida. He's definitely in a place that he knows a lot about that. I'll grab another phone call here. Caller from 786. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hi, Jason. This is Ramel from Miami, and I'm just listening. That's all.
Okay. I had another one get caught up in the matrix there, so just go ahead and put that. I'll see about taking maybe one more phone call here. Let me get caller from 708. You're on live with the Black Channel. Sounds like he's calling from a boxing arena. Okay, well, we'll just leave him alone. It sounds like he's getting drugged from the back of a car. If anybody sees somebody with their smartphone getting drugged from the back of a Winnebago going down I-65, that might be him. You might want to contact the authorities and hope that Darren Wilson doesn't show up. Brothers and sisters, I don't want this to be our last stand. I want us to be able to turn this around. But if we don't do it, no one will. The generations before us didn't do it. And we can't wait for the generation after us to do it. First of all, that's not fair and that's not right to them. And second of all, we can't wait or depend on somebody else to do our job for us. That's not the way survival works. That's not the way survival works. And I hope that all of you are going to do everything that you can. We have 2 weeks before the opening of 7 a.m. in America and around the world. I want you to do your part to help make this the event and bring every single person you know. Make sure that they understand how important this is, that it's time for the national conversation to change. Because the protesting doesn't work. People, the reason that the protesting does not work, and tonight, I'm not going to do the black Ayatollah thing. I just want to speak to you honestly. A lot of you are scared to death. You are scared and cowering. You're trying to hide at your job, hide at your church. You're trying to hide behind these things and hoping that today's not your day. And then it is your day. And then you're screaming, why the hell didn't we do something about it? And many of you are trying to do everything you can to hide from the problem. And don't you see, nobody respects you when you're a coward? Nobody respects your cowardice. The only way we're going to get respect is if we stand up. and show the world that we do know what the problem is. The problem is the rest of you have an organized economy and we as black people do not. And that organized economy is victimizing the people with the disorganized economy, or none at all. And you're not going to be able to purchase, pray, or protest your way out of this. You're not going to be able to go off and go buy some shoes and make yourself feel better about being flat ass broke. Because there's no secret anymore. Everybody knows that black people are the poorest people in America with the most expensive shoes. Everybody knows that. Go talk to any little old white lady. She'll tell you, hey, if they're black, yeah, I mean, that's what black folk do. She'll tell you. She'll tell you. Everybody on earth knows this is our pathology. Everybody on the planet knows this is what we do. We are trying to practice material therapy to make up for all the things we don't have, starting with self-respect. They know that when they move against us as a group. Malcolm X said that they never come by themselves. That's right, Malcolm. They come against us as a group because they know that we stand as individuals. And they know it. So they know that all they have to do to break us is come against us, 3 or 4 of them, and that's it, because they know we're going to come as individuals. They know we're not going to rally as a group, and I'm calling you to rally as a group now. I'm calling you to come out. I'm calling you to make this important. I can't make this important for you. I can't make survival important for you. You have to make it important for yourself. You have to do that. So I hope that you'll take this opportunity to do that. But if you don't, just remember your parents and your grandparents left you in the damn lurch. They left you helpless. They left you twisting in the wind so that George Zimmerman or anybody else can come and get you. They did that. And now they're asking that you betray your children the way that you were betrayed. And I'm saying, don't you dare do that. Show your kids that you're not going to be a phony and a fraud and a liar. Show them that you knew something was important and you got up and did something about it. Come and join us. We're meeting around the country. You can go to 7ammovie.com. That's 7ammovie.com and see where we're hooking up at. Where we're coming together at. I shouldn't say hooking up, but you can see where we're coming together at. And you can be a part of this. And if you don't know, that's okay. If you don't know about black economics, that's all right. Because there'll be a bunch of somebodies at this place who can tell you. There will be plenty of people at every single one of these venues who will be able to help get you hip to it. And if they can't, they'll get you in touch with me. Hell, I got a phone number you can call. Good grief. But it's time. Now, if this is Melissa, you are in the wrong... You took the caller queue, not the host queue.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. And what's on your mind?
Can you hear me? I just wanted to say, I think we don't know how to hustle anymore. And I think we're just more concerned with fame than with fortune. And I had...
Well, you said, well, let me stop you there for just a moment, because I'll let you finish your thought here. But Melissa, you said we don't know how to hustle anymore. I see plenty of hustling going on. Going on. The problem is, do we actually want to hustle for something substantive, or are we just hustling for some little mess? Hustling for crumbs.
What I mean. That's what I mean. I mean, I'm not talking about, like, the little peddlers on the street. I'm talking about truly getting a game plan together and implementing it. We freeze up. Like, we might have ideas, but we don't know how to take it further and make it into a true venue. We get milk money. That's what we're about. We're about money to get us through the day, to put food on the table for the day, to, go to the club for the weekend. We don't take vacations. And I know in a previous broadcast you made mention that, white people don't take vacation. Well, white supremacy, it doesn't sleep. And when white people do go over to Africa and places like that, they're still trying to make a connection. And years later, they say, oh, yeah, when I was on vacation with my family, I met so-and-so, and they're in this business, and I'm going to give them a call. And it's like 7 years later, they've still made that connection. But we just live for the time being, and we don't look for a future because I think we feel like we really don't have a future.
We try to steal
that
things.
We don't.
That's why we have so many women out here with bastard babies. They're trying to steal affection. That's why we have so many dudes out here with shoes that they can't afford. You've seen this like I've seen this. You all have seen Negroes. He's walking down the street. And in Louisiana, it's hot as hell in July. They're walking down the street. He's got a cell phone. He doesn't have a car, but he has a cell phone. We believe in trying to steal things.
Yeah, we're flashy. We're more concerned with the fame than with the fortune. And going back to what I was saying about hustling, I had made a comment on in your group that we don't even pass down skill sets to our children. And that's why I say our kids, they don't even know, how to hustle. And it's like when we do get something from somebody, we feel like, like we got over on them and we make it into a joke. Like we played them. We're more concerned about being able to play somebody for kicks than keeping that ace in our hole. You know what I'm saying? We'd rather make fun of you and think that you were stupid because we were able to get something out of you than to say, you know what, you're a point of resource, and I'm going to keep you in my back pocket for later. And I don't know why we have these destructive behaviors, but I really do believe it has everything to do with our children being raised by single mothers. They're not getting the skill sets. My cousin, he turned 18 years old, and the first thing he did is he went and got his CDLs. Is that the truck driver's license or whatever?
Yes.
And now he's traveling around the country making vast sums of money, meeting all kinds of people, making connections, building with people so that he can figure out in, a couple of years where he wants to post up to see the populace, to see, the supply and the demand in these different places. And that was the smartest thing that he could possibly do. He didn't have any skill sets, but he could drive. And there's not, much I can say for too many young black males. They don't think like that. They would rather, work at the movie theater or something to see the fine chicks that come in on the weekends to the movies.
Well, yeah, because the only thing that matters is can you bed somebody? You're not building anything. You're not leaving a legacy. So what does it matter whether I have 4 bastard babies or no kids at all if I'm not leaving him anything? So it doesn't matter under what tawdry, turgid, distasteful circumstances you're having kids or whatever. If you're not leaving them nothing, it's all the same. It's all relative. I'm not leaving. He's not building anything. So the only thing he has in this world are his sex organ. He doesn't own anything of consequence. He's not building anything of consequence. Might as well at least take care of your biological urges, because that's all you're really building.
If we're so concerned with reputation, you would think that a people so concerned with their reputation would want to make a name for themselves.
Make a name with themselves with whom?
With the black community, with the world, with whoever it is, that we would want to be successful on a larger scale than to be successful for all the wrong reasons.
But remember what I said, our scope
for all the wrong reasons.
Our scope of perspective as black people does not extend beyond the block we were born on. So we take a look at our next door neighbor and we compare ourselves to him, but we don't go to the white side of the town and compare ourselves to them. The only time we do that is when white folk invite us in, the NFL, the NBA. That's the only time that we ever compare ourselves to them, for the select few who are invited in. But as far as us getting up in the morning and saying, I'm a citizen of the world, black people don't say that. Black people say, I live at 100 Blog Street. And that's it. That's it. So we compare ourselves to each other, and not even to the whole of black society, to the people in our immediate vicinity. Like I was explaining to Brittany. Those people were comparing themselves to her and saying, I gotta hold you down. But Darren Wilson, the rest of these people, no, they're not even a consideration. They never even think about them. And the reason for that is because they're not competing with them. They're not.
Well, maybe that's because, well, I'm not going to even try to excuse that. It's unexcusable, and that's just how that is. But I just wanted to call in and give my opinion about why we don't, start our businesses and whatnot earlier. I mean, there's girls in the hood that can, whip up some hair and braid, and they don't do anything with that. They don't turn that, into a business. The majority of people don't turn that into a business. The only businesses that the black community seems to have the most of is some barbecue joints, maybe a barber shop or two, and that's about it.
Hair,
everything
ribs,
else we do
and
little hustles. We're selling DVDs, CDs, bootlegging, our cigarette squares on the corners.
Well, we do hair, barbecue, ribs, and the occasional dance club. Hole in the wall club, as a matter of fact, is not even something
a hole in the wall.
It's usually somebody's closet, and that we've converted into a club of some sort. Is usually what occurs. But as far as something that is going to be an economic anchor in the community, that's not what we're gearing towards. And I am trying to do this because we desperately need that to change. If black people had owned all the businesses in Ferguson, Darren Wilson wouldn't have done that. If Eric Garner had been standing in front of some black-owned stores on that block, if that whole block was nothing but black-owned stores, the police never would have even shown up. They never would have shown up. They never would have done that. Tamir Rice, if we had had some businesses for him to be at, he was left a sitting duck out there at that park for some white supremacist to call the police so they could come and execute him. That child was left as a sitting duck. He should have been somewhere where we could be inculcating him in the ways of power, wealth, and influence. Instead, the police saw him by himself and said, hell, y'all ain't got no economy, you got no community. This white bigot over here with the cell phone has got more power, wealth, and influence than all of you. Execute the child. And that was what happened. That's the truth of what occurred. And the fact that we're out there in thousands, in throngs, protesting, and not, as I explained last night, we're not even really protesting. All we're doing is trying to get on TV. Because if you really want to protest, you would be countering what these other people are doing. I want to ask you all, where is the legal fund? When white folk wanted to back Darren Wilson, they sent their money. When they wanted to back George Zimmerman, they didn't get out there and protest his arrest. Show me the white folk who came out there in thousands and legions protesting at the police station. Send me some pictures of them. Send me some pictures of the white people who were out there saying, we're going to march for justice. Will somebody please send me those photographs so I can see them? Show me the teeming crowds that were out there with their protest signs protesting the police chief and yelling and cursing at the police. Damn you for arresting George Zimmerman. When did that happen? It didn't. Oh, they took action all right, but they didn't go out there with a damn sign. They didn't go out there. They went out there with their money.
It didn't even matter if it was $1. They had faith in their almighty dollar that was going to influence what they wanted.
Because they understand
but we don't look at it like that.
They understand that when you're serious about getting something done, you lead with your wallet. That it is an economy that is ultimately going to determine what happens. You take a look at what's happened in Cuba. The United States said we want to normalize relations. Raul Castro said, "Yeah, we can dig it. Maybe we need to open up this. Maybe this communism thing is gone as far as it's gonna go." You didn't hear him say, "No, we're good with our communism." You didn't hear him say that. You did not hear Raul Castro say, "We're all right with our communism. United States, go kick rocks." You didn't hear them say that. The United States wanted to change things, and in a day, it didn't take a year, not a week, in one day, they flipped in one day. Why? Because the money opened up. And white supremacy understands that you lead with your economy. Where your money goes is where your power goes. Where your power goes is where your influence goes. Power, wealth, influence. And if you want to stop police, you have to lead with your money. If you want to stop white supremacists, you have to lead with your money. So the first question we should have is not who's going to meet us at the courthouse. That don't mean nothing. And a lot of other people thought that this was really just something great to brag on. I never did. I thought civil unrest was warranted, but I have said since day one, but it's worthless if you don't follow this up with some concrete actions. And I told you, y'all saw my thing about the video of the broadcast that I did where I said Ferguson the next Black Wall Street. That was the action you're supposed to follow it up with. You're supposed to control the politicians. You're supposed to control the landscape. You got 67% of the damn population.
Right. What is it, 16,000 black people in Ferguson out of 20,000?
There's 21,000 people in Ferguson. Total, the black population's around like 15.
That should have been easy to do.
That should have been rudimentary. They should have been able to get that whole city council kicked out. So far, I've gotten a couple of responses of interested people in Ferguson who want to run for city council. Out of 15,000 and thousands of protesters, many of them not even from Ferguson. Out of thousands of protesters, you can get 2 people who want to run for office. You know, to do something real about the problem, you know. Because, you see, I didn't invite them to be on TV. I invited them to go down to that city hall, and I said, I don't want you to go down there and yell at Jay Knowles. Everything I want you to say with Jay Knowles whipped your ass with a pen. The police department whipped your ass with a pen. Bob McCullough beat your ass bloody with a pen. Darren Wilson beat you to death with a pen. And if you want to beat them, you bring your dollars. Somebody's beating you up with a pen, you beat them to bloody death with your bank account. That's what you do. And then you get candidates, and then we go and have us a public capital punishment spree with our pens. That's the way it's supposed to go. But you see, Jay Knowles is not worried. And the reason that he's not worried is because, like every other white supremacist in Ferguson, they don't follow the protest, they follow the paper. They follow the money. And they do not see a massing of black dollars flooding into Ferguson directed at removing them from office. He doesn't see that. And since he knows that that's the only way you can punish him, there is no other way. That's the only way that you're going to be able to punish him and the other white supremacists. He doesn't see your money coming, so he knows there is no retribution coming.
Jason, do you think that maybe one of the reasons why we're slow to build businesses is because we really just don't buy into business, money, wealth, power, influence. We see our elite in the black community, or black identity, I should say, and they don't do anything. They do nothing for us. Our Russell Simmons, our P. Diddy's, they do nothing. So
we have two problems. Number one, we've been employee-minded so long that we can't see any world outside the little speck that we're standing on. Problem number two, black people have become accustomed to living vicariously. And I've been saying all this for years and years now, but black people have adopted a culture of living vicariously. If I'm wearing Michael Jordan's shoes, then I am validated like Michael Jordan is. If I'm wearing the same weave that Beyonce is, and she's wearing weaves, y'all, okay, for those of you who didn't know, if I'm wearing the same type of weave that Beyonce is, I'm validated. If I'm wearing the same type of Spanx that Nicki Minaj is, I'm validated. If I buy Lil Wayne's album, I'm validated. Other people are just entertained by their celebrities. Black people feel we're validated by them. And the reason for that is because we spent so long being addicted to the idea of integrating white society. So if you're the first Negro, then if Jackie Robinson wins, we all won. And we've bought into that. That if Lil Wayne is number one, we are number one. If Birdman's got a Bugatti, we got a Bugatti. That's not Birdman's Bugatti Veyron. That's the black community's Bugatti Veyron.
You say that about the president, too.
If Barack Obama is president, we are president. Floyd Mayweather Jr. beats up another bum, we won the boxing match. We ain't got a dime from it. We didn't get anything. But we are addicted to living vicariously. So those two things together have mixed together to create a deadly cocktail. Where you're not moving, and furthermore, the movement that you do make doesn't actually mean anything, but you are completely convinced it is. Black people are thoroughly convinced that the little crap we're doing is doing great and wonderful things. We are totally convinced that's what's happening.
Is it because we're being taught lies, or is it because we're not being taught truth? As in, we're not being given the information?
Ma'am, I've bought thousands of dollars of advertising. Dr. Claude Anderson has been out there for decades. Dr. John Henry Clark was out there decades before that. Malcolm X, decades before that. Marcus Garvey, decades before that. Sister, it's not that people are not aware. It's not that people don't know. There isn't a single black person in America who does not know what white supremacy and racism are. Not a single one.
Well, you know what? I want to speak on that now that you bring that up. Like I've told you before, I'm 32 years old. I was, raised in a black family. I didn't know that the segregation laws in the South were called Jim Crow. And I had a conversation with my mother about 3 months ago, and I was telling her we were watching the news or whatever, and I said, Jim Crow, blah, blah, blah. And I must have went on for about 10 minutes, and she stopped and she said, "Who's Jim Crow?" And I said, "Are you serious?" And when I realized that I didn't even know, at 28 years old, I didn't even know that the segregation laws in the South were called Jim Crow. That's when I decided I can't be asleep on this anymore. And it's only been a few years,
Well, here's the real thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about Jim Crow. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about segregation. It doesn't matter any of that. If you know that you are being oppressed and victimized because of the color of your skin, you know everything you need to know. The previous history of it.
But that's what I'm saying, Jason. I didn't even know I was being. I didn't know that the kids at school that were, I was their pet. They were riding my back. I didn't know that they were treating me like an animal at the zoo. I didn't know that when they were touching my hair, it was because they were disgusted and were making fun of it. I thought that I was the class clown, but I was the one being clown. And the reason was because I was not taught that I was offended. I think that black people, we are offended day in and day out to the point we don't even know when we're offended because it's so ingrained in us. We don't even know when we're offended. Case in point, I went to a meeting About 30 people, 27 of us were black, one person was Asian. The woman left. She left someone in charge. She said, if it gets out of hand, crack the whip. I was the only black person that was offended by that comment. Had she said that to a room full of Jews, had she said, I'm going to leave, don't let anybody burn down the camp, she would have been fired. We are so used to being offended, we don't even know when we are. And it's because we're not being taught properly.
Well, one of the greatest acts of malfeasance is that black parents, you've come of age now. And every black person of America eventually comes of age where they do realize the gravity and the extent of what's wrong. The real problem is, why is it they don't teach their children that? You had a mother, you had a father. They knew this. They didn't teach you that we're black. And if they didn't teach you that, it's because they didn't think it was important. I put up a Facebook post last night, and I meant it the way I said it. If there are any cities that 7 a.m. doesn't do well in, it's not because people don't know, or they're not aware, or they just don't see it. It's because they have said, yeah, we know what you're offering. I just don't think the economics is important. You see, I've got something different.
I don't think the average layman black person really understands what the word economics means. I really don't. I think there are keywords that are just not a part of the black lexicon. Business, economics, marketplace.
I don't think that's the case either, because I can give you example after example. I've done whole broadcasts about this. Guys who've called up here and saying that they didn't, that capitalism was wrong. I put up a post about capitalism. It always happens. There's some dusty, crusty, bummy Negro who jumps up talking about, we don't need capitalism. We don't need money. That's white folks' dollars. We just need to know our history and know who we are. He never says what we do after that. They never say that. When you ask them, there's never a next step. It's just know your history, know who you are. Ma'am, that's not it at all. They know we need money.
Oh, yeah, they know we need money, but I'm saying to, be able to even engage in a conversation. The fact of the matter is, if you can't even talk right, if you're barely verbal, as you put it, no one is going to pay you any attention. They're going to think you're a rambling, babbling fool. But I'm saying there are certain words, like business. When someone says business, the majority, well, I'm not going to say
no, they do. Now, when you say business, when we say business, black folk know what that means. Black people know what that means. But have you ever tried to get somebody else to even join your business? What they will tell you is, I'm all right at my job where I am. And the reason is because they had a reflexive action. They had a recoil in their eyes and in their heart when you said, let's start a business. The first thing they thought is, wait a minute, you want me to quit my job? That was all he heard you say. Now, you thought you said, let's start a business. That's not what he heard. What he heard was, so you want me to quit my job? How am I going to take care of my wife and kids? Well, that's not what I said. What I said is, let's start our own business. Yeah, but I got a guaranteed check over here. Well, it's guaranteed till they fire your black ass. Well, let's see how this all pans out first. But what you're talking about is just too risky. And that is the common answer that you will get among black people. It's not that they don't know. It's not that they don't have the concept. You have said, let's own something. And you have said, let us build something for ourselves. And the only thing they heard is, so you want me to give up my guaranteed check?
But Jason, how many black people say that to anybody? Let's start a business. Let's build a business. Let's go into business.
We have, and that's the answer that we get. Dr. Claude Anderson's been doing it for over 20 years. Dr. John Henry Clark before him.
That's true. We do. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen.
It was Tony Brown, Gil Nobles. We can go down the list. It's not like these are just isolated.
I hope that it does become a part of, the table talk.
Well, but these are not isolated incidents. These are not isolated incidents, and this isn't a recent occurrence. We have been having, Marcus Garvey was saying it, and he had the largest galvanization of black people probably in American history. And that was the thrust of what he said.
But how many black people know who Marcus Garvey is?
Well, they knew who he was then, and they knew what he wanted then. So if they weren't going to pick up the baton then, what was stopping? And they were in a worse shape than we've ever been. What was stopping them? And the truth of the matter is that most black people would rather sweep a white man's floor than to own their own. And that, what I just said, is going to offend a lot of people, but damn you, most black people would rather wipe a white man's bathroom than to own their own. And that's why it's so difficult for us to get them to try to own their own, because they're like, well, hell, he lets me wipe his. Why do I have to own my own bathroom? I've got the use of his.
For acceptance, because, like I said, for recognition, for fame. We're more concerned with fame than we are with fortune. We're more concerned with being accepted to sit at the white man's table than building a table of our own. And being able to invite who we want to invite. We'd rather be invited. We find more pleasure in being invited than being able to invite. I enjoy being a host. As a matter of fact, I would rather be a host than have to bring something to somebody else's house. But
that only counts if you have an idea of owning your own. Thank you very much for giving us a call, Melissa. Please do check in with us here again. We're glad to have you. Now, let me grab, I know this number here. Hello, Miss Stephanie.
Hi, TBA.
And I shouldn't say Miss Stephanie. I just don't want to say your last name to everybody else, because then they'll be looking you up and trying to call your number. And what's on your mind, sister?
I was just calling, I guess, to kind of touch on some of the things you and Melissa was talking about. One of the main things that I kind of wanted to discuss was the whole David Duke thing, and the fact that if he even does release those names, that, you know, we as black people aren't prepared for that. It's just going to be one of those, aha, we got you kind of things, and we have no way to follow up on it or anything like that. And all it's going to do, in my eyes, is just lead to more embarrassment of y'all ain't going to do anything about it. And even if we do get them, all they're going to do is replace it with more people, you know, white supremacists. So.
What we need to understand is that we are surrounded by them and have the acceptance that those are the real stakes, and that's what's really happening. These are not isolated incidents. It's not just one white supremacist there and one way over there. Most of the individuals that they're talking to are. There's just the ones who you've been able to ferret them out, and then there are the other ones who have just concealed it and everything. But what we found out now is that they really are saying and doing the things when we're not around that we always thought they were. Now, the next question becomes, okay, that's what they're doing. Now, what are we going to do about it? Because every day that we continue with this attitude of meandering and weakness, and they can see that we're not taking action against them, Steph. They can see that.
Exactly.
And since they see you're not taking action, that only emboldens them to go further. Because their end goal is not to make you feel bad. Their end goal is a world without Africans. And when they see that they're making a move and they're making these little steps and they're talking about you behind your back and you didn't know it, now they're talking about you behind your back and you did know it, now they're calling you nigger to your face and on TV and proud of it, don't you see they're heading in a direction? The end goal is a world without Africans, and they're taking all these steps, these one by one, inch by inch, and they're getting closer and closer and closer. Until they create an environment where it's completely hostile to us and you just gun us down the streets. That it becomes the law, shoot on sight. And black people as a group today apparently are waiting for the shoot on sight law. They're just waiting for them to tell us they can shoot us on sight.
And it's funny that you bring that up, too. A friend of mine, we actually went down to Wilmington to specifically look for, you know, indications of Black Wall Street. And they don't have any markers there or anything. And when you look at the map, you can see, like, they map out where most of the attacks occurred and everything. And it actually had, like, where black people died, the majority of them died, where the white people were wounded, and like black people died, whereas the white people, they were just wounded. Like that was to the extent of the injuries. And of course they have like little 6 paddles down there to commemorate it or whatnot, but that's all you get. It was like a park, and the park is no longer there. It was like, I don't know if, you know, the white people tried to erase it in order to try to get rid of the history or not. But whenever we went to a museum and asked about, you know, the riots, they were telling us that most of the information was in the Raleigh Museum. And I'm like, but this is ground zero. Why do I have to go to Raleigh in order to get that information? And then the fact that the guy who was one of the catalysts for the riots, Charles Aycock, I think his name was, he actually became governor after that. Like, they voted him for governor and starting riots with black people. And it's like, okay. And they didn't, I mean, the people, the young kids didn't know anything about it.
He was doing what he thought was in their best interest, but you have to understand, other people have gotten into confrontations with other races, and they commemorated it because they understand how important it is to remember. Black people are the only people who are trying to run from ourselves. We don't want to remember what other people have done to us. That's why integration was such an easy sell. Because we are tired of being ashamed of being black. So if they give us a pathway to come in, we will abandon our stores, our children, ourselves, if they give us a pathway to acceptance. Talk about a pathway to citizenship. As long as they will give us one, we'll give up everything, because the difference between black folk and Jews, Arabs, Japanese, Chinese, all these other groups, the difference between us and them is that they were never ashamed of who they were at a basic level. They were never ashamed of that. Black people are ashamed to be black. Even after we did so much, and we talk like we've galvanized and that we've accomplished so much, and we talk about Jackie Robinson and Joe Louis and whatnot, but the truth is that didn't do anything to help our battered self-esteem. That didn't do anything to help us. We are ashamed to be black.
Well, it goes back to what you were telling Melissa about that was a so-called victory for us because of what they did, instead of having our own victories and being like, myself, this is what I did for my family and for my people. We always look at them, they did that for us.
Well, I mean, but the point I was making, though, is that's why we don't teach our history to the children. Because we're hoping that if we don't say we're black, then hopefully if we just ignore it long enough, it'll go away. That the stigma and the problems, if we just stop talking about being black, like Bill Cosby and Morgan Freeman with their lying asses, if we just stop talking about being black, Morgan Freeman doesn't realize that he's not being given a pass. He's just an actor that a lot of people consider to be a personal pet because of the Shawshank Redemption. But there is no, let's stop talking about being black and it goes away. It will never go away. But we rob our children and deceive our children because we hope that if we stop talking about them being black, then that there's some type of unwritten, unspoken agreement with all the rest of these people that if we act as ashamed to be black as we know that they feel we should be, then that will get them to say, okay, they're ashamed to be black. We ain't got to beat up on them no more. They feel as bad to be black as we feel looking at their black ass. So we can leave them alone now. And that is what so many of us are doing. And that's why we don't teach our history to our children, the important parts of it. We want to talk about stuff we can't do nothing about. You notice they don't want to talk about the more recent things. They know all the ins and outs of the pyramids and can tell you every pharaoh in succession, but they can't tell you who the prosecuting attorney is in Ferguson or Staten Island. They can't tell you that. Notice they can't tell you that part, huh? Amazing.
We are in a pickle.
We're not in a pickle, we're in a barrel.
Wherever we are not in a good place, and we need to get into higher ground.
You know, some folk think we're crabs in the barrel. I think we're ducks.
Sitting ducks?
It's like shooting ducks in a barrel. It's not like they're going anywhere. But, you know, it's up to us to do everything we can do now to change that. I put together an event. I'm hoping that this will galvanize enough people that, you know, that they will come together. I've done it around the world, and I really do feel like, Stephanie, this is it. You know, anything else beyond this will just be gesticulating. It'll just be people jumping up and down making noise. Black folk love to show up for an event. We love to show up, you know, for a movie or a club or something, but we're asking for something more difficult. We're asking them to take action. And that's going to be the real turning point. Is, are black people ready to actually do something about the real problem? The fact that we do not own businesses, and that's making us the poorest people in the world. We don't own our own economy. And the people that we are dependent upon their economy, they're killing us now. Because we don't benefit them anymore. That's why it's okay to kill us. They brought us here to enhance and improve their economy. We are now obsolete. So it is okay to kill us now. I want you all to think about something. When they had slaves, they took out insurance on slaves. They took out insurance on slaves. Now you have to fight with your employers to get insurance on you. But when you were a slave, you were insured. Not health insurance, but you had life insurance. At least he had insurance on your life. What about us now? What about us now? We are obsolete. They don't need us. And because they don't need us, now they are taking the slow descent into dehumanizing us completely so that we can be exterminated. And there are steps you have to take before you exterminate a people. But understand, the United States has done it before. I guess folk are just in denial of where we stand. The United States has exterminated people before. Hell, what do you think Manifest Destiny was about? The United States has a long history of exterminating people. Go ask Hiroshima and Nagasaki about that one. They have a vast and very well-placed history of exterminating a people that they have no use for. And black people are obsolete today, and I'm saying we better get our money together so that we are impervious to people who want to exterminate us. But we have a number of us, apparently, who have decided, hey, man, I'm just going to live it up until it's my day to be called. I'm just going to live it up until they call my number. So now people have to choose. Are you with the live it up till they call my number crowd, or are you going to do something different? I'll let you have the last word.
I wonder. Well, all I have to say is Black First, TBA.
Black First, sister, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I'll see about taking one more call here. Let me get caller from 347. You're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 347 has been abducted, which is fine. I'm done. I got a few more calls left on here, but I guess I'll leave y'all for tomorrow. I'm not a person who talks about the past a lot. There are a lot of people out there who make a lot of videos, a lot of lectures, a lot of things talking about our history. Well, I'm not the guy who does that. I'm the guy who talks about the future. I'm obsessed about where we're going. I'm the guy who talks about our survival, and survival is a present progressive. not a past tense. They hate us because we're black, but they're able to victimize us because we're poor. That's the answer. There is no other answer. There is no other way. This is it. This is the answer. This is the way. This is all you have. This is all we have. They weren't able to victimize us and imprison us because of our lack of religion. Remember, they approached us with religion, so obviously the problem isn't our lack of religion. They weren't able to imprison us because we didn't have the right degree. Please remember, black people, we are the ones who invented the 33 degrees of knowledge. They weren't able to imprison us because we didn't have proper sexual habits. They weren't able to imprison us because we didn't possess the right footwear. They have been able to imprison and oppress us and now start to exterminate us because we are poor. We do not have an economy. We are dependent on their economy, which means that our survival is dependent on them because economy is what determines survivability. They are able to victimize us because they have an economy and we don't. It's that simple. They have an economy and we don't. Now that's where we've been. Let's talk about where we're going. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you don't like me. This is not about the messenger. This is not about whether you like my tone, my words, my language. That's not about that. It's not about your sensibilities. It's not about whether or not you're offended or not. There's only one question that matters. Do you believe that black people have a future? If you do, then that means that you obviously have to determine whether or not we're on the right track right now. And I'm telling you we're not. We're not. We are not on the right track. We're heading in the wrong direction. We're heading toward annihilation. Now, you may not want to believe that, but it's the truth. We are. We are. I'm extending to every person listening to me right now an opportunity to change that, to come together with everybody else who knows what you know. If you have not been to our website, 7ammovie.com, and purchase your tickets to show up, come and join us. Come and be one of the select few. Let's stop talking about being victimized by white supremacy. Let's stop talking about prosecutors who allow police to kill us. Let's stop talking about schools that don't work and neighborhoods that don't last. Let's stop talking about those things and let's actually fix them now. Come and join us. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, brothers and sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.